Am I the a-hole for basically telling my niece to toughen up when she got scared by a weirdo? I am 33M, and I live near my brother Andrew, 37M, and his family. They live in a suburb of Chicago. Andy and his wife have a 6-year-old daughter named Rena. She's a very cute, very bright little child, and Rena considers me to be her other dad. One day last year, my brother and his wife and daughter came home to find that a homeless dude had broken into their house. My brother threw that guy out, but the homeless dude was harmless, and he didn't do anything besides taking some food from the fridge. Nevertheless, it creeped my niece out very badly, and she has a fear of strangers these days. One day this past April, Andy and his wife were caught up at work. They only got home very late at night. Since I live near them, they entrusted me to pick Rena up from school and look after her until they got home. So I picked my niece up from school, and we walked to my brother's house, when we walked past a crazy guy who was yelling at thin air and throwing garbage at a wall. This scared my niece so much that she immediately hugged my legs and started crying. I guess where I went wrong was that I gently pushed Rena off my legs, and I let her know, in kid-friendly terms, that since she lives in an area inhabited by rather questionable people, she's gonna have to toughen up and put a brave face on whenever she runs into those weirdos. I told her that it's an important part of growing up. She just nodded and gradually stopped crying, and we resumed walking back home. She was quickly back to her normal, cheerful self, putting on a brave face like I said. So my brother and his wife got back home, and by that time there was asleep. I let them know that the day went well, except that that crazy guy made Rena cry. I told them about that little lesson I taught Rena, and, honestly, they didn't like it. They especially didn't like that I told their daughter that it's all a part of growing up, and I left their house on bad terms with them. Am I the a-hole? Redditor comments. 1. You're the a-hole. She's 6. Her home and basic security was violated at 5. A man, similar to the one who did that and that you have no way of knowing if he was actually harmless, was scaring her, and instead of showing her that you were going to protect her and keep her safe when she was scared, you literally pushed her away and told her to suck it up. How could you even think you're not ta? 2. You're the a-hole. A 6-year-old can't judge yet whether a person is dangerous or not, whether a person expressing anger, throwing garbage, yelling out, is doing so because of mental illness or not. Being scared is a normal response for her. By telling her to stop crying or toughen up, you are diminishing her feelings and potentially hindering her ability to process her emotions, and may also affect her ability to react or protect herself in the future. You can instead validate her feelings. It makes sense that you're scared. That person seems mad. I can tell you're upset. Can you tell me why? I can tell you're scared. I am right here with you. It's okay to feel nervous. I feel that way too sometimes. And then you can gently explain that the person does not seem to be yelling at you too directly, or actively trying to harm you. 3. You're the a-hole. For God's sake, she's 6. It would be traumatic for a grown-ass person to have a homeless person break in and then see a similar person screaming and throwing things shortly after, let alone a baby. You don't tell little kids to toughen up, and that's just how the world is. Put on a brave face. That's poor parenting. I would be angry if my brother did this. 4. You're the a-hole. She's 6. It's absolutely natural for her to be frightened in that scenario, and it's completely understandable that a home invasion would leave her even more sensitive to situations like that. All this, and we're not even mentioning that as a girl, the risk presented to her by weird men in the street is a very different one than what you face, statistically speaking. I can't believe that no part of your reaction was to comfort her when she was frightened. Experience makes you tough, not just being told that you have to be. 5. You're the a-hole. She is 6, and it is a normal reaction to be freaked out and want to get away when you see a person behaving like that. I am a grown woman and live in a rough area. I see that stuff, and guess what I do? I get the hell out of Dodge as fast as I possibly can, because that stuff is scary and you don't know what someone is capable of when they are screaming into thin air and throwing stuff. The fact that you told an already traumatized child that she needed toughen up is beyond ridiculous and frankly terrible advice. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for not letting my daughter go on a school trip by herself? My daughter, 20F, is a lovely singer currently in her junior year of college at a music program in university. For clarification, she still lives at home and is a commuter student. When she was 18, her voice teacher chose her and a few students to compete in a regional voice competition about 3 hours away from home. The other students either drove with their teacher or by themselves and stayed in the same hotel. That time, my daughter wanted to go alone too, but we said no, only because it seemed dangerous. An overnight trip with practical strangers in a city she's unfamiliar with is not ideal. Other reasons: the hotel chain they were staying is gross and we could put her somewhere better, and we wanted to be there to support her and see her sing. My husband, son, 14M, and I all drove to the competition. No one looked at my daughter weird. There were many other parents there, and everything went well. Flash forward to now, where she's been invited to the same competition. We plan on going again, but my daughter says she wants to drive with a friend who's also going. Two young women driving by themselves to an unfamiliar place hours away where anything can happen, car breaks down, someone gets hurt, etc., does not sit right with me. She's also forgetting she is taking away our chance to support her and see her perform. This is all for her safety, but now my daughter us moping around the house, because her parents want to support her, ensure her safety, and has her best interest at heart. Am I really the a-hole in this situation? EDA, I see a lot of talk in comments about my daughter being a legal adult, which is technically true but pretty shaky in the real-world view of things. She's entirely financially dependent on us, we still pay her phone bill, for goodness sake. To give your parents a metaphorical middle finger and go by yourself anyway is a slap in the face for all they do for you and is a legitimate reason to halt financial support. Redditor comments. 1. You're the a-hole. This is said in the gentlest way possible, as a parent who has a teenage child. The reality is that she's a grown woman and you cannot always be there to protect her. She has to be able to live her life and make her own mistakes, and the best you can do is hope that some of the lessons that you taught her will guide her decisions. Because ultimately you raised a child to become her own person, and it's time to let her do that. Also, I'm sure you and your husband can drive down separately if you really want to see her perform. She's not taking anything away. 2. You're the a-hole. You know your daughter is old enough to join the army and be deployed to a war zone, right? Pretty sure she can handle driving a few hours away to stay in a hotel. Stop suffocating your adult child or eventually she's going to cut you out of her life entirely. 3. You're the a-hole. She is an adult. At that age I had already moved abroad by myself. If she runs into problems on the road she will deal with them. In the end you are one phone call away if she needs advice. Stop over-sheltering her, put some trust in her and let her grow up. 4. You're the a-hole. If they'll be driving through a war zone, yes, that's risky. But it doesn't sound like that's where you live, and you definitely come across as very overprotective. I'm surprised that, at age 20, she hasn't been on a similar trip with friends yet. If they're going to same place as last year, no, it's not unfamiliar. Even if it's a different place, so what? She'll be with her friend, and they'll be staying in the same location as other people she knows. And just because she and her friend on their own, that doesn't mean you can't also attend the event. These days, because of computers and cell phones, you can thoroughly research wherever it is you're going. Both make it much easier to stay in touch with others as well. She'll hardly be isolated. All those things that can happen, car breaks down, etc., can happen at home too. Do you not let her drive around town either? How in the world do you expect her to develop any independence? 5. You're the a-hole. This is not about her safety, this is about your insecurities, whether about the idea that you don't believe that young women can't take care of themselves or that you can't accept the idea that your daughter is now an adult and starting to begin an independent life. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for laughing when my oldest claimed my youngest kid is the golden child? I have 3 kids, 22M, 19M, and 10F. This is ridiculous, but my middle child asked me to post. We were having dinner and my daughter didn't want to eat her veggies. Pretty normal, so she didn't get dessert. Sam made a comment that was pretty tame punishment. That I didn't want to upset the golden kid. I laughed since I thought it was joke. He then went on a rant about the punishments never matched up to what he went through. I told him of course they won't, you are 12 years older. He says when he broke one of our aunt's vases he got grounded and had to pay it back. I gave a toddler when that happened a timeout. He kept bringing up situations about unfair treatment, but you don't give the same punishment for different ages. He stormed out. My middle child just told me I shouldn't have laughed. Redditor comments. 1. You're the a-hole if your kid is telling you something that seriously matters to them. Laughing isn't the answer. If they genuinely feel like they haven't been treated fairly, You need to put your ego in the closet and listen objectively. The kid may not be right, but you don't know because you shut them down. 2. Not the a-hole. The way I've disciplined my kids have changed as they've grown older. Makes sense. Time out for toddlers, evolving into don't eat dinner, don't get dessert, break a vase/pay for it. Given the age difference between the first two and the youngest, I wonder if it's more how the oldest felt when the youngest was born. That would have been the age where they would have been able to help out and take care of a baby, and that led to resentment of what they are seeing the 10-year-old do now. I am just guessing, I have no idea. But if your oldest is serious about being upset, that seems to be the more important issue to break down. 3. Everyone sucks here. You shouldn't have laughed. Laughing at your kid when their thing to express their emotions is a great way to completely alienate them and make them feel even less heard. Your kid is trying to express something to you. You should dig deeper and find out why, not laugh. Yes, punishments will vary by age, and logically your oldest knows this, so you need to listen and ask questions and find out what is really bothering them. If you laugh at their emotions, they'll never trust you. 4. Not the a-hole. I don't know why everyone is assuming the op must be treating the daughter better than the oldest just because she's the youngest. That's not always the case. The youngest is not always the most spoiled or the golden child. Honestly, what did your oldest want you to do to your daughter for refusing to eat vegetables? I thought the punish was appropriate and normal. It does seem like your oldest has some resentment, and it's worth figuring that out. Maybe even in family therapy before it grows into something more. But not the a-hole. 5. Everyone sucks here. While it feels like there's missing info, I'm judging off of the described situation. Your child is reacting to what he feels is unfair treatment in an unhealthy way by lashing out, which makes him an a-hole. You, the parent in the situation, completely invalidated his feelings, no matter how he expressed them, by laughing at him, which makes you an a-hole. You need to sit down and have a discussion about this topic with him to actually understand where he's coming from, not just invalidate him. Because there's honestly few feelings worse than your parents completely invalidating something you feel strongly about, especially unfair treatment.